final game of the season for the Philadelphia Eagles, or the final game of the 2021-2022 season. It is the end of the road for the Philadelphia Eagles, and let me just say, let me just get the congratulations out of the way, because this team was 2-5. This team was 2-5 and dead in the water back in like early November, late October. We were 2-5. We had no identity. We weren't running the football on a regular basis. I almost said blasis, on a regular basis, and then we started running the ball. We started running the ball with Miles Sanders. We were one of the we had a four-headed monster on this team, and Jordan Howard finally got the ball going. And Boston Scott had a few really big games, and Gainwell had a few really good games, and Sanders had a few good games. And we had Jordan Howard got injured, Sanders would come in. Miles Sanders would get injured, Boston Scott would play well. Jordan Howard would come in. Miles Sanders broke his hand. We had Boston Scott, who literally put a whole game on his back in that Washington football team game. But I think that at the end of the day, the real issue with this team was the fact that we weren't battle tested. If you look at all of our wins, we had one win against a winning team, and that was the New Orleans Saints. And we got that win pretty much because the Saints could not stop Jalen Hurts. Like, Jalen Hurts is the kryptonite for the Saints. They just can't stop him. And their quarterback was Trevor Siemian. I think that's what his name is. So we stopped him for 3 quarters before they even had any semblance of a chance for coming back. And that was our lone win against a winning team during the season. And it was barely a winning team because they went 9-8 just like we did. So I think that at the end of the day, I picked against the Eagles. Like, there's no way I thought that the Eagles were going to beat Tom Brady. I know that a lot of Eagles fans like to have this wishful thinking because they have their blinders on, but the fact of the matter is that this team was not ready for prime time. This team was not ready for the playoffs. Coaching wise, they weren't ready. The players weren't ready. We just didn't have enough talent and we didn't have the experience. We didn't have the coaching to keep up with some of these teams in the playoffs. We just really didn't, and it really did show when it all came down to it. Having wins against the Falcons, who they were a losing football team. They were a little bit below average. The Panthers, who were really good at the beginning of the season, like September they were really good, but then when the rest of the season they stunk it up after they lost Christian McCaffrey and they weren't playing easy teams. The Lions, who were a 3 or 4 win football team, maybe 3.5. I'm not quite sure about that. And one win against the Giants with Jake Fromm, a win against the Washington football team with Garrett Gilbert. I'm having trouble recollecting the other teams we beat, but the fact of the matter is we had a lot of cupcake wins. And a lot of Eagles fans got upset when people brought that up, but the fact of the matter is that when the Eagles went up against the playoff teams and the playoff caliber teams, they were losing by double digits. And you just can't do that against those teams. That's when you really say, like, you can't control the teams that are on your schedule, but if you're playing bad teams and beating up on bad teams and you can't beat any of the good teams, then there we are. And really, I think that the only team that could beat Tampa Bay in the first round was New Orleans. But the only way New Orleans was getting into the playoffs is if the 49ers had lost and the Rams had won, and then the 49ers would have not gone to the playoffs. So here we are in that situation. But I think at the end of the day, you look at this game, and I feel like there's no such thing as a moral victory, but going 2-5 all the way to 9-8 and going to the playoffs, I think that that's something that to celebrate. But at the same time, you look at this game, and there were so many missed opportunities for this team. And you can blame the officials all you want. You know that I'm one of the first people sitting at the TV and yelling at the officials. But when you look back, we still missed opportunities by ourselves. You know, when the quarterback is late on throws and it leads to interceptions, and when he overshoots receivers, and when Jordan Howard, who is this pound the middle back, is just not utilized in the whole game, you just begin to question the coaching staff. I know a lot of people go after the defense in this situation. Jonathan Gannon didn't call that bad of a game, in my opinion. I think that what ended up happening was the Colts noticed the weak spot in the Eagles' defense, which happened to be Avonte Maddox. And they stuck Mike Evans in the slot, and they said, okay, Mike Evans, beat Avonte Maddox. Beat this 5'9" cornerback. And that's exactly what he did. So that was the game plan, and they executed on it. Otherwise, we sacked Tom Brady 5 times. There were drives that were stalled out. The Buccaneers could have scored more points on us. In the fourth quarter, they were leaving Tom Brady in. Tom Brady played the whole game. But when it came to the second half, they scored less points in the second half than they scored in the first half. Legitimately. I don't think that the Eagles had a chance to win this game, but I do think that the score could have been a 31-24 game. But because of a few horrible efforts, because of a muffed punt from our bust of a wide receiver, this is where it is. And during the game, you could clearly see, Troy Aikman just didn't want to be there. At one point, he said that he wanted to commentate on the 49ers-Cowboys game. He would have rather done that. That just goes to show how pathetic your team is in that situation. I don't know why Devontae Smith didn't get more targets in the first half. Troy Aikman from the booth was talking about how they had single coverage, they had guys off, but Jalen Hurts was just, or the coaching staff just didn't recognize that. Just wasn't throwing passes to Devontae Smith until the end of the game, which really cements in my mind that unless Jalen Hurts gets significantly better, we're not going anywhere with him. And any wide receiver we bring onto the team is just going to be a waste. Because the quarterback always needs to make the wide receivers better. Right? You look at Aaron Rodgers. He's got one really good receiver, and all the rest of his receivers are like average. But they still have like 500-600 yards during the season. That's just how it needs to be. Otherwise, I didn't really have that much of an issue because, again, I didn't expect the team to win. I doubted the team, but I was right about it. So I don't like to doubt the team, but it's not like I was wrong about doubting the team. So there's not much else to say about the game. Tom Brady beat the living crap out of us. They had a good game plan executed, and they put the ball in the hands of Jalen Hurts, and when Jalen Hurts has the ball in his hand and it's up to him, the Eagles probably lose. I don't know what else there is to say about that. I think that pretty much talks about the game as it is. I am still a little upset that the Eagles opted not to play their starters during that Week 17 game. Not because I felt like there was any competition between the Eagles and the Cowboys, but because a lot of our players are young. A lot of these guys had never been to a playoff game. So wouldn't it be a negative aspect to keep them out and make them rusty? Which I do think that some of our players were rusty. I do think Jalen Hurts was incredibly rusty, and the fact of the matter is he didn't really pick up the game until the fourth quarter. And you could say, well, the Bucks were playing prevent defense. No, they weren't. They were playing the same way that they had been playing before, right? They wanted a goose egg on the board. And I guess the only positive of this whole thing is the fact that we didn't get shut out. We weren't completely embarrassed like the Patriots were, but that's nor here nor there. A loss in the playoffs is a loss in the playoffs, and you can't really get that back.